everyone, and welcome to Transatlantic Watch Party, a movie podcast in which Dan in Canada and myself, Cara, in the UK, watch a film separately and get together to talk about it. And this week we will be discussing 1967's Cool Hand Luke, directed by Stuart Rosenberg, his feature film directorial debut. He was a TV guy. And it has a screenplay by Don Pierce and Frank Pearson, based on Pierce's novel of the same name. And it was nominated for 4 Oscars: Best Leading Actor for Paul Newman, Best Supporting Actor for George Kennedy, which he won, Best Adapted Screenplay, and Best Original Score, which the score was fascinating.
There, fella? I just cut this meat thing. You better come along with us.
You're gonna get used to wearing them chains after a while, Luke. Don't you never stop listening to them clinking. 'Cause they're gonna remind you of what I've been saying.
Wish you'd stop being so good to me, Captain.
Don't you ever talk that way to me. Never! Never!
You talking about the music? They played like the songs, the folk songs and all that stuff?
No, the underscoring of the film.
I couldn't,
It had this wide range of, like, when you saw them working on the chain gang, of like boom, boom, but like big, heavy music. And then the rest of it was like this folksy banjo stuff. It was a very interesting vibe that they set in the background, considering especially that we came from Dog Day Afternoon, which didn't have any underscoring.
True. Very true. Oh, interesting. Okay, here's the overview. When petty criminal Luke Jackson is sentenced to 2 years in a Florida prison farm, he doesn't play by the rules of either the sadistic warden or the yard's resident heavy dragline, who ends up admiring the new guy's unbreakable will. Luke's bravado, even in the face of repeated stints in the prison's dreaded solitary confinement cell, the box, make him a rebel hero to his fellow convicts and a thorn in the side of the prison officers. And I liked it. I thought this was a good movie. It was very well shot. I liked like some of the way that it was edited together was really cool, and some very neat shots in this. And it was a good story, an interesting story. It reminded me of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, even though this came first, right? But it's also it's like a guy who's like odd person out, doesn't really fit into society, and goes into this institution, and then you meet this kind of this group of characters that are also in this institution, and then he becomes friends with them, right? So
Yes, and I hadn't thought of that, but yeah, that's very interesting. It is very alike to that. I also enjoyed it. One of the main reasons I enjoyed it, as I'm sure you realized as you were watching it, it's really sweaty.
yes, that's a lot of sweaty workmen, as Tony Stark would say. It's
And oh my God, they know how to shoot sweat. And I wonder if it's like the high def thing that we have now, and like films from the 60s and 70s just kind of look grittier because of how they were shot, and the film that was used and all of the lighting techniques at the time. But I just really appreciate how realistic that those sweaty men look. They look gross. I love it.
well, it looks like they're really doing the work, right? And that's what they're supposed to be. Like, it doesn't feel like they're actors in these scenes. They get really dirty, and they look like they're working hard in a lot of these scenes.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And in fact, in one of the scenes, they did actually fully do the job that they were meant to be doing on the chain gang. So we'll get to that later.
Okay.
Do you wanna talk us through the first of the characters?
Yes, of course. So we have Paul Newman as Luke, in his prime, I would say, as the young, like, handsome man he is or was. George Kennedy as Dragline, and I was just shocked at this performance. I know him as the guy from The Naked Gun. That's what I know George Kennedy from, and to see him do something like this was incredible. And that to learn he won an Oscar for it is pretty much, it makes sense, because he's just very, very good in this. And then Strother Martin as the captain, who is the guy in charge of the labor camp, the guy with the hat who has like does the speeches, and he has a very famous speech that I knew immediately as soon as I heard the words. I knew it, and we'll get to that in a second as well.
He also has quite the voice.
Yes, very distinctive, kind of a high-pitched Southern accent, like just very, very like. But I don't know if he kind of looks like a small man. It's kind of voice you would expect to come out of a small man. But I didn't really get the sense of his stature at all while we were watching this.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes. Oh my God, the Leslie, the actor who was in like Will and Grace and stuff.
Oh,
And oh my gosh, I can't remember his name, but it's a bit like that. That's who he reminded me of.
yeah, yeah. Well,
Okay. I will talk about the ladies. Jo Van Fleet, who has one whole scene as Arletta, Luke's mum. Joy Harmon, who has one whole scene as Lucille, doesn't even get a real name. And that is one hell of a scene. Morgan Woodward as Boss Godfrey, also known as the man with no eyes. And there is bonus Harry Dean Stanton, although he is credited as Dean Stanton, and Dennis Hopper. And it's funny because I just watched Rebel Without a Cause for the first time.
okay.
Dennis Hopper is in that. Baby Dennis Hopper is in that. And I really know my prime Dennis Hopper knowledge is 24 and Speed.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'll tell you this right now. I'm going to be jumping off either of these two guys for the next film. It's either Harry Dean Stanton or Dennis Hopper, because I love both of them and they've both done a lot of different movies. So I'm like, one of these guys is going to give me something good. I have not decided yet. I've got two movies written down here, one for each of them, and I'll decide at the end which one we're going with. But
We'll be flipping a coin later.
well, yeah, I mean, we'll see where this goes. But yeah, I think they're both great. And I want to say a bonus, Joe Don Baker, who me recognize. He became like the guy playing everyone's dad in like the 80s and 90s, and he was one of the guys. He does not have very many lines. And the guy who played Chopper John from MASH is in this as well. He's credited as the gambler. And he's got a kind of a Southern accent. He's the one all kind of working at the poker games and stuff. So there's a few familiar faces in here. It's cool to see all these actors kind of young and coming up.
Yeah, it's a real, oddly enough, for the two really central performances, I would say Paul Newman and George Kennedy, and then the sort of third for Strother Martin as the captain, who isn't in a lot but makes such an impact. It's really an ensemble piece. Everyone in it is so important. All the background stuff is so important. Just the number of them in that bunk room is so important. So even though, some of them didn't have any lines and some of them only have 2 or 3, but all of them play such an important role in what happens to Luke. It's fantastic.
Cool. All right, let's go to because plot. Sometimes nothing can be a real cool hand. That might be the best line in the movie, honestly. I think that's a fantastic way to start. Luke is arrested and sent to work on a chain gang for 2 years, where the guys sweat their way through hard labor and fantasize over Lucille. Initially butting heads with Dragline, he wins him, and therefore the other prisoner is over with his stubborn and rebellious nature. And yeah, he is arrested for damaging parking meters or wrecking. I don't know what he's doing. He's either taking them apart or wrecking them. He's got like a wrench thing, and he's like, but I love that opening, the way it's like cutting together the violation sign from the parking meters, and what the heck's going on here. You're not really sure what's going on, and then you see what he's doing with it, and that's it was really a great way to start the film. But that's what he's doing. He's just, for the hell of it, he's drunk, he's wrecking parking meters.
And did you notice that he got the same time as the manslaughter guy?
I did not. No, that was okay.
Because he says to the captain when they arrive at the prison camp, the captain says to the manslaughter guy, "You've got a 2 spot," which I didn't know what that meant.
Yeah.
But then he discusses later that a guy's got a 20 spot, and I thought, well, that must mean 20 years. Because the other thing I was thinking was it could be like 2 decades, but that guy can't have 20 decades. So I was thinking, well, okay, so a spot is a year, so he's got a 2 spot. And then he goes over to Luke and he's like, well, you got 2 years in here to like figure it out or whatever he says to him. And I'm like, he got this. He just pulled apart some parking meters.
Yeah, it's a pretty harsh sentence, to be honest. And I don't know really why it would be that much. It just seems like such a minor thing. But I think part of this movie is about the institute. It's about the I guess monetization of this system and about how like he's messing with their money, right? That money for the parking meter goes to the city, that goes to the government. So he's messing with their what's it called? Cash flow, so to speak. And then when they go to work on the farm, they appear to be doing road work. I was trying to, for the longest time, like trying to figure out what the hell are they doing here? What is the point of this? And then they get to the one scene where they're doing the paving, but someone's got to be like, they're not doing that for free. Someone's getting paid for that, right? Someone from the government is paying them to do that. So that's probably go to the prison. Prison's making money from that, not the workers. So I think this is kind of about that system. He just kind of thumbs his nose at the whole system. They don't like him. We also learned that he is a war hero. This is right after World War II. So he had a bunch of medals to talk about.
Yeah, a lot of medals.
Yep.
He had a Silver Star. Do you know who else has got a Silver Star? Eddie Diaz in 911. He had a Purple Star. He had a Purple Heart. Sorry, he had all sorts of stuff.
Yeah. So that was funny. And then yeah, I'm sitting there. What are they doing? They're cutting weeds, but they're first they kind of cut away the grass that's along the side of the road. Then they dig the ditches. That's another thing they have to do. At some points, they have to dig the ditches along the side of the road to drain whatever the water, whatever happens. And then another point, they are paving the road, literally shoveling sand or gravel or whatever was on there. So they're just doing all this road work for free. And someone's like just getting, this is about the system getting rich off itself. I think something like that.
Yeah. Also, I mean, nothing is said, and you'd think it would be, but Luke is the kind of character who might have pissed off the judge in some kind of way.
I'm thinking, yes, exactly. He probably said something in the court. We didn't really see that part, but he probably said something to piss somebody off, right? So he gets sentenced to this labor camp, and it is quite the. I mean, it starts off sounding really harsh, and this guy, I don't remember his name, who gives him the spiel at the beginning.
Is it the box speech guy?
Yes. Spend the night in the box. That's his solution. If you do this, you spend the night in the box. You do this, you spend the night. Any breaking of any rule, you spend the night in the box.
Them clothes got laundry numbers on them. You remember your number and always wear the ones that has your number. Any man forgets his number, spends the night in the box. These here spoons you keep with you. Any man loses his spoon, spends the night in the box. There's no playing grab ass or fighting in the building. You got a grudge against another man, you fight him Saturday afternoon. Any man playing grab ass or fighting in the building spends the night in the box. First bell is at 5 minutes of 8, when you will get in your bunk. Last bell is at 8. Any man not in his bunk at 8 spends the night in the box. There's no smoking in the prone position in bed. To smoke, you must have both legs over the side of your bunk. Any man caught smoking in the prone position in bed spends the night in the box. You get 2 sheets every Saturday. You put the clean sheet in the top sheet in the bottom sheet you turn in the laundry boy. Any man turns in the wrong sheet spends the night in the box. Which no one will sit in the bunks with dirty pants on. Any man with dirty pants on sitting on the bunk spends the night in the box. Any man don't bring back his empty pop bottle spends the night in the box. Any man loud talking spends the night in the box.
What is the box? It's just a little shack. It appears to be an outhouse without a toilet, although they give you a bucket, two containers for that stuff. But basically, they just lock you in there. It's solitary confinement. They lock you in there overnight, I think. But there's one point where I think he's in there for longer, and I'm not sure what happened. But yeah, at first, like he's, oh my God, this is super harsh. But by the end of it, like he's like sitting down and laughing with them, and they're distracting him and stuff. So like they become friends, eventually.
I expected this whole film to be a lot darker than it was. It's surprisingly lighthearted.
Yeah.
And I genuinely thought because like I say, I like to go in knowing as little as I can. And I've been watching a lot of classics with a friend of mine, Martin, and after every classic, I go in going, well, that wasn't what I expected, because I just have the wrong idea about every film ever made, I think. And this film, I genuinely thought was going to be gritty and difficult, and his rebellious nature was going to be pointed and purposeful, and it's not. He's just a guy. Do you know what I mean? Like, and they're treated kind of surprisingly well on the prison. They get a day and a half off, at the weekend, and like they don't beat them, and they they get put in their bunks at night, and the guy is walking up and down, and I should have said who that was because he's such a great character, and they just go, getting up now, boss, and he's like, yep. So they can like get out of bed and go to the bathrooms and whatever.
Every time they have to ask to do something. I love the way they asked. It's doing this thing, bosses. Take it off now, boss. Put it on now, boss. And it's whatever down, boss. I love it.
generally speaking, they get the okay to do it. Like, yes, they're like strict. They live by the rules or whatever. But I was genuinely expecting it to be a much harsher place that he was in, and that he was going to be like really fighting back, not just against the authorities, but against his fellow prisoners. I thought there was going to be this constant battling of heads, and it lasts for about half an hour.
Yeah.
You know, and then he wins them over, and it becomes, and like, even when he hasn't won them over, it was just never as dark as I thought it was going to be. Not a bad thing, but.
Well, they have this moment where they play a trick on one of the new guys on the first day, where they tell him there's a sweeper job. And this guy's like, yeah, my job's easy. I'm a sweeper. All I have to do is sweep up all day, and I don't have to do any of the hard work. And he's like, well, you're not going to sell your job, are you? And he's like, no, I couldn't do that. And it's like a trick they're playing on the new guys. So they get one of the new guys to pay him $1 for a sweeping job. And then when they get off the truck and they're getting put to work, this guy's like, oh, so-and-so said I could have a sweeping job. And the guy's just like, getting to work. And basically just like, he's not having it. He's like, no, you go get to work now. So he gave him the $1 for nothing. And then we find out there is no sweeping job. There was never a sweeping job. It was a joke to get this guy to kind of pretend or to want to do it. But then he gets put in the box because of it. That's the harsh punishment. That's really like, all he did was say, you know, I thought I'm supposed to be sweeping. The guy's like, no, get to work. So he gets to work, and that's it. Like, there's no real problem. But because poke out, he gets put in the box. And that's a surprise to the guys playing the joke on him, because they didn't expect that. They're like, oh, well, it was just a joke. I wasn't, you know, there's no sweeper job. Come on.
It kind of, you know, they're like well behaved and they do what they're told, and then, you know, and then it's really extreme.
Yes, it goes crazy. It goes like, oh crap! But they all feel awful. They all know how awful it is to be in the box. They do feel bad about it. Then we see, of course, Dragline. Sorry, George Kennedy's Dragline, and he's giving them a hard time because they're all just kind of hazing them, basically. Like, these are the new guys. We're gonna give them a hard time. So he's doing that, and he's boxing. I like how this movie brings together elements of other movies we've watched, because it has boxing, like it had, like in Rocky. It has poker, like in Molly's Game, and it has a hound. It has a hound, like in Best in Show. It has several hounds, but there's one hound in particular that I was very sad about. But yeah, they're boxing basically, and this is something they do in their 1 day and a half off. They can box for fun, and so it's Dragline and Luke boxing, and all the guys around cheering them on. And Dragline is bigger, like he's a much bigger guy, so he's just got the reach, and he could just like. He just keeps knocking him down. But Luke is like Rocky. He will not give up. He keeps getting up, and he won't give up. And basically, they all kind of become frustrated. He's like, just stop getting up. He won't. He just keeps getting up. So finally, Dragline just walks away from him. They all kind of walk away. Like, what's wrong with this?
Yeah, there's an interesting moment of foreshadowing in it where, like, one of the guys is like, someone ought to stop this. And they all start getting, like, they're enjoying him getting beaten up and humiliated, but then they all start, you know, like, not enjoying it anymore, and they all slowly sort of turn away as the boxing is still happening, and walk away. And the same thing happens later in the film,
Nice.
You know, in a very different circumstance. But watching this man get broken stops being fun for them. It stops being fun for George Kennedy. It stops being fun for anybody. So I really enjoyed that. Did you notice? I was amazed. They let him keep his bottle opener necklace.
That's surprising. Yep.
I was like flummoxed by that decision. Like, he could sharpen that. That could be a shiv easily.
Yeah, they're clearly not thinking about that stuff. It is kind of easy to get away when it is time for him to escape. He does escape fairly easily. So it's not like they're really, like, they seem pretty confident they're going to find him, which they do, you know. So maybe the system works. Like, even though guys are going to try and escape, they're going to bring him back and then put another set of chains on him and then just keep him working, right? So they've got their system. It seems to work.
I did like that we got that explanation later, because at the beginning you see that some of them have chains on and some of them don't, and I was like, why is this? You know, and they don't explain it until much later, you know, when it becomes important to the plot. But it was something at the beginning that I was like, Dragline doesn't have chains on. Is that because he's like the leader and he's therefore important? I don't know. Has he got privileges of some kind? But no, it's just the other ones have been bad.
Yeah. There's also, of course, as you mentioned, the scene with Lucille, or this woman who decides to come out and wash her car in front of all these prisoners. and she's just showing off basically. Like she's like it's like Luke says, she knows exactly what she's doing. She's just teasing a bunch of guys who cannot do anything about it. And Boyd is just, I keep calling him George, I call him George Kennedy too. Dragline is just in love with her. He's who calls her Lucille, and he's like obsessing over her. And even afterwards, he's still thinking about her. It goes on for a while.
He's really into Lucille, which is not terribly surprising. That is one hell of a woman. But I was reading about her in particular, Joy Harmon, and like when she went to audition for it, like her manager got her an audition for it, and she just walked into a room in a bikini and didn't say anything. Like that's all they wanted to know. And she like when it was bikini, then turned around and then left. You know, they were like, yeah, that'll do. Those are some nice bazonkazonks. We'll use them. Thank you very much. But when she was filming it, like she makes it seem like she didn't. She just thought she was washing a car. She wasn't like going, and then I like lean in like this. She was just like, oh, I need to reach over there. And so she sort of makes it sound like she was very naive and innocent and had no idea that that was how it was going to be portrayed in the film.
Interesting, because there's a couple of moments where she seems to look over there and look at them and see them watching her. Right.
But so I don't know what she thought in her head was like that the justification for that. The other thing, of course, is that when the guys were filming it, she wasn't there.
Of course.
But rather than just letting them act, you know, just imagine a hot woman, they put a 15-year-old cheerleader out there in an overcoat because it, you know. So like, why would you do that? That's so inappropriate. It ruins the entire thing for me.
Oh my God, it's awful. And that's horrible.
Just show them a picture of Joy Harmon and go, this is the woman. These men are perfectly, trust me, these men are perfectly capable of imagining a hot woman.
Yeah.
You didn't need to even have anybody there.
I don't remember, this also ties into this. I don't remember if it's in this section of the film or not, but the guys also love romance novels. Yes. They read each other. I don't think Dragline can read actually. So he has to have them read. I think it's Coco is his best buddy there, and Coco reads everything to him. So he reads them these romance novels, like a pretty steamy.
We'll say. Some pretty good Mills and Boon that they've got hold of there. And then his hand slipped up her thigh. Oh, hello. It's really fun. That's everything I've got on the first part. How about you?
Yeah, we can move on.
Okay. A common and likable tendency towards exaggeration. Visiting day arrives, bringing with it Luke's mother Arletta and his brother John, but I don't think John has any lads. Luke turns a day of hard labor into a race and then faces a self-inflicted challenge to eat 50 hard-boiled eggs in an hour. Luke receives word later that his mother has died, which she'd said was going to happen when they met. So it wasn't a terrible surprise. Arletta, I'm amazed she didn't get nominated for Best Supporting Actress, because that's the kind of role you come in, one scene, you just knock out of the park and everyone just goes, well, that's an actress. She's just terrific. And she's laid out in the back of that sort of flatbed truck, which as a person with a chronic illness that makes me tired constantly, and I have to keep my legs raised as much as possible because sitting with my legs down is shattering. The idea of having a flatbed truck and being able to just travel around in it with like my bed in there, that sounds brilliant. And the netting across the top and the canvas to keep so she's in the shade. She's got a nice glass of water next to her. She's got cigarettes that she clearly shouldn't be smoking. She has obviously a really interesting relationship with Luke. Like, he hasn't told her he's in prison. She sort of finds out through some other way. Someone collects his things from where he'd been staying and returns them to his mother and says, like, well, we're giving you these because he's in prison now. And John, who I assume is Luke's brother, writes to the prison system and says, hey, guys, where's my bro? And they turn up on visiting day. she is. They might not be close because she didn't know this sort of thing about him, but he is clearly her favorite. And she says something. She says to him, "You just have a feeling for a child, or else you don't. With John, I just didn't." And I'm like, "Man, John is wrong there." But I mean, he probably knows, because kids do. If your parents have a favorite, they usually know who it is. But I just thought that was pretty harsh of her to say right there, when John had driven her all this way and, found out where Luke was for her so that she could see him before she dies. Mean. Really mean.
Yeah, and clearly he's the one putting a lot of work into taking care of her, right? He's the one who's going to be with her through the end of her life, and she doesn't seem to care about it at all. She cares about his Luke.
Yeah.
And
Put some respect on John's name. That's what I say. Put some respect there.
But we also learned that Luke's dad wasn't around. But she talks about good times that she had with his dad and stuff like that. So I don't know how that changes things, but it's like we just kind of get a little insight more into Luke's life before he went to war, I guess. It sounds like he was generally a well-liked person and kind of had a good life, I guess. I don't know, maybe not.
This is the thing with Luke. We have little to no context about him.
Yeah, we don't really know a lot. War and I mean everybody went to war, so that's pretty common that everybody would have gone, but he did well. He was a good soldier.
And it's not like we don't see him like waking up in a cold sweat from nightmares about what happened in the war. We just there's no reason for everything that kind of comes about from him. And that's one of the things. When he eats the eggs, they leave him on the table, and he is very clearly in the crucified Christ position.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, he's Jesus. Oh, okay. And I started watching the film completely differently.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, he's just sort of anti-authority in a Jesus way. And he's always calling out to God to prove that he's there. And I'm not a Christian. I don't know anything about the Bible. But I was brought up, in Christian schools and whatever. I'm British, and that's, what we're fed as kids. But it felt like, this sort of contextless man who didn't really set out to rile everyone and sort of had this laid on him, something that we'll talk about in your next section, and he sort of doesn't want it at points, and other times he claims it, and he did feel very Christ-like to me.
Yeah, he's like, it seems to be like just wanting to live life or challenge life in a way, and just experience things and see if he can do the things he sets out to do. It's like, this is why he says I can eat 50 eggs. He just says it. He doesn't have any idea if he can do it or not. It's like, and then what's his name? It's like, why'd you say 50? Why not 39? Something a little bit easier. He's like, seemed like a nice round number. Like, let's just do 50 and see if we can do it. Like, he wants to find out if he can do it as much as anybody else does, right? And the whole sequence, I love that everybody gets behind this. Everybody puts money in on it to see if he can do it or not. And even the cook is making the eggs and everything like that. So everybody's like, okay, here we go, ready to go. People are complaining because he's got people peeling the eggs and that kind of stuff. They're all arguing over that.
Hey, you're peeling his eggs.
That's right, Mr. Alibi.
He peels his eggs himself. That's understood.
Now, you may be just great at hanging paper around a big city and passing bad checks, but us country boys ain't entirely brainless. When it come to the law, nothing is understood.
Wait a minute. Who made what law about peeling the eggs?
I'm his trainer. I'm the syndicate covering all bets, and I'm his official egg peeler. That's the law.
Just wait till the hour starts, that's all.
Yeah, there's bacon on the fact that he had a peeler.
He can't eat.
First it was a salt.
What's going on?
All right.
You ready, chap?
Ready? Go!
1, 2, 3.
Man, he's gonna lose a finger eating eggs like that.
And I was like, he's gonna die. There's no way. And I heard of this scene. I've heard of this as one of those scenes from this movie that you hear about before you actually see the movie. and it's like you just think he's gonna just throw up at any moment throughout the whole thing, because he's just like,
But
one more, here's one more, and like, and by the end of it, like you're like, is he gonna do it? Because it's like it's down to the wire, and he gets the last egg in there, and he's eating it.
I think that's the one bit of the script where I thought, no, I don't believe this.
Yeah.
Just because he eats like 8 eggs in the last 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you could have given him 10. I just don't believe that he'd have got through that many in that short time. But he's not allowed to throw up. You see him many times going like, and then holding it in. His stomach gets bigger. There is a beautiful moment when they're training beforehand. Dragline's like running him round the yard. And they're like, let's stretch his belly out. And then pushing his stomach, trying to make it bigger. Which is funny because, like, Paul Newman's a pretty scrawny guy. Like, yeah, he can't fit 50 eggs in there. I'll kill him. We sort of get Dragline's backstory, the little bit of it that we get, like why he's in there and whatever. And he says at one point, he says, like, he's just generally a good guy. I love my neighbor and his wife. Oh, okay. I'm like, I don't know if he loves the wife in a like Lucille way, like looking at her from a distance, or if he loved his neighbor's wife. Not sure how real that was. Before the egg thing, we have the bit where I said they actually did the work, which was the blacktop that they put on the road that they then cover in sand. And again, like, this is a situation where Luke sort of makes it into a race. He makes it into a game. He makes it fun and stuff. And everyone's enjoying themselves and laughing and having a great time. And none of the bosses come and like hit one of them with a stick and say, everyone calm down. At the end of it, they're like, hey, we finished 2 hours early. We've got 2 hours. And we never see what happens in those 2 hours. But they make it sound like they're going to get those 2 hours off. And it's not like they're then all taken home and taken back and made to do some other awful form of hard labor. That's what I mean. Like, I think it's a reasonable chain gang, which is a very weird thing to say. Chain gangs shouldn't exist. People shouldn't be put to work. Prison should be for rehabilitation, if it's at all. But as other, prisoner of war things and sort of chain gangs that we've seen on screen have been really bad. This one seems quite gentle.
This is the point at which you start realizing that, because I thought they're going to get in trouble. There's a point at which the guy's walking and they're shoveling the dirt, shoveling the sand, and like one guy almost gets it on him, but then he kind of turns it and he kind of does it a different direction. So like, oh, they're worried about getting sand on this guy's shoes or something. But then later on, they're just going super fast, and they're getting sand on the shoes. Nobody's getting upset. They just want the work to be done, I think, is all they care about, getting that work done.
Yeah.
But it is kind of meant for punishment. Like they say, oh, this is the hardest work you ever do. And like, oh, and they're all kind of it's all about like the headspace you're in. And then Luke turns around and goes, no, this is fun. Let's see. Let's go. Come on. Let's do it. Let's see if we can. And he starts just encouraging them, and they just start running and running. And that's just that momentum just keeps them going. It's so kind of invigorating to see him just kind of have fun in the face of these assholes trying to ruin his life.
Yeah, it's this idea of joy, the resistance of joy.
Yes.
Like joy is an act of resistance. And in this situation, it really is. But the fact that they don't get punished for having joy is something that really surprises me. The other thing, of course, is what their sort of the downtime they have. They're so bored. That's why everyone becomes obsessed with this egg thing, because they're just so in such desperate need for entertainment.
I think this is during when Arletta comes and he's walking out to go see her, and there's these guys like jumping rope. I think it's Dennis Hopper and somebody else jumping rope together. I'm like, this is kind of hilarious. They're just playing jump rope. It's so funny.
When they find out that his mum has died, they all give him space, which is lovely. But the only way they can give him space, because they're in the bunk room, is to all shuffle to the end of the bunk room, like the entrance foyer, and stare at him. So it's like, it's almost worse. I'd rather everyone was still around just having normal conversations and I can do my morning alone on my bunk. But they all sort of smoosh into a corner and like, look at him. See, he sings a lovely little song. It's a very odd song, Plastic Jesus, but he does it beautifully.
And then they do something that I don't understand. They put him in the box because his mom died.
Yeah.
Why? I don't understand this logic or whatever they're trying to do here.
They explain it to him. They're very clear. They say, we're putting you in here because otherwise, like when somebody's mum dies, people get crazy ideas about maybe going to the funeral. So we're going to lock you in the box so you don't try and escape. That's what they're doing. It's horrendous. I was horrified. And the guy who puts him in there says, I'm just doing my job. You've got to appreciate that. And Luke says, calling it your job doesn't make it right. And you're like, yeah, this is just after World War II. I don't know if the Nuremberg trials, I don't know when that happened, but I think they probably had. And haven't we all learned at that point that saying I was just following orders isn't really a good reasoning?
Not at all. We've all seen A Few Good Men, right? Or at least we
have. So yeah, I was horrified that they put him in the box. The guy that you're talking about, and I mentioned him, Morgan Woodward, who plays the man with no eyes, who is this guy who never speaks. Not well, except to bark orders at one guy in particular, Rabbit. But even then, he doesn't bark orders most of the time. He just holds up his walking stick in a particular position, and the guy Rabbit knows what he's meant to bring or do because of that. Some kind of semaphore with his walking stick, and he's the guy they don't want to get sand on the boots of. And he called his character, like a walking Mephistopheles, which I get. He's definitely the bad guy of the piece. But again, he just had no impact on me. Like, to describe your character as a walking Mephistopheles, he played it that way. He's a bad guy. He's threatening and all that sort of thing. But Luke is so all-encompassing that I don't care who that guy is. I just found it the darkness just wasn't. I really did think this was going to be a horrible watch, and I say that because I love a horrible watch.
Okay, but he's just got that smile. He's got that brilliant smile, and he just admires like the part with the snake. Right, they're working, and the snake comes along. They're like, "Oh, snake!" And they're all like freaking out about the snake. And then Luke just picks it up and holds it up, and then because that's the thing about the Boss Godfrey, he's a great shot. He gets his shotgun, he can shoot this head off the snake right there, like as he's holding it. He's like, "Wow, man, you're a great shot," and he just admires the guy's shot. Like that's all he cares about. He can't be scared of this guy. Look how good of a shot he is. That's so cool, right? Yeah. It's just a very cool moment.
And I think, because Luke's not scared of him, I'm not scared of him.
Yeah. I appreciate the shots we get from his glasses. The best reflections out of his glasses in this movie. Some really, really good shots of like what's happening. That's the most important part of the character. And he loses the glasses at the end of it, right? That's something that I found interesting. The glasses get smashed. So with that,
and that's like they really focus on that. That's a really big deal. The man with no eyes has been uncovered. He has been unmasked.
Hey, boss. Forgot your walking stick.
Man, you sure can shoot.
The line is "Stop feeding off of me." I like that. Another good line where all these guys are so obsessed with him because he's so cool, he's so like interesting, and they just want to know everything about him. And he's like, this is after he comes back from escaping. He says this, and he's like, "Just leave me alone. Just stop feeding off me. Do it yourself," is what he says in that moment. Luke escapes for the first time, but is soon returned and earns his first set of chains. After his second escape, he gains a second set and some individual punishments. The first of which is taken on by his fellow prisoners. The second leading them to turn their backs on him as he is broken. So the first escape is really interesting because these guys are having like a dance party in the bunkhouse. They're dancing.
They're making as much noise as is physically possible.
Very clearly making as much noise while Luke saws a hole in the floor. And it looks like he's using like the end of one of those tools that they've been using for the grass or whatever. It's like something they smuggled in there. He's literally sawing a hole in the floor. And so while they're making the noise, he gets out. And somebody else gets out with him too, right? Wasn't there somebody else that
Yes.
Patch
Yes,
him? Patch the second person.
Who doesn't even get over the fence.
He doesn't get over the fence. Yeah, they pull him down, and he's like he's trying to get out, but Luke gets away. And then he sends them a photo. Is this when we get the magazine?
No. That's the second one.
Okay, sorry, I forgot. I got mixed up here.
This is the one where he jumps over the fence. And I was like, he goes, run, hop over the fence, run, hop back over the fence, run, hop over that. I was like, what are you doing? Why are you wasting time like this? And then we find out later he's confusing the dogs.
Yes, the dogs. Oh, yes.
The dogs are trying to follow his scent, and they're like trying to stay on it, and they're like sticking their head, they're nearly choking themselves to death in this fence. You know, it's
Poor
very
dog.
smart.
I was very sad.
But
We have blue dog.
he does say that he only gets 1.5 miles. When he comes back, they're like, "Oh, how far did you get?" And he goes, "Oh, I only got 1.5 miles." It seems much further to me, and I don't know if he's just like downplaying it for the guys so that they don't think, "Oh, you got all that way and then you got caught." But it did really seem like he went a lot further than that.
Maybe, yeah, but I mean, it's at nighttime and it was dark, so maybe he was weaving too much and you couldn't actually get that far. But yeah, they bring it back. They put on the set of chains, and then we get the big speech from the captain. And this is what's I always know from since I was a teenager. It's from a Guns N' Roses song called Civil War. Do you know this song? Okay, at the beginning of the song has this speech. What we have here is a failure to communicate, and like the whole thing, and it's like the beginning of the song. So I knew as soon as I heard that, I'm like, oh, this is what that's from. So that was kind of cool. But this we get the whole speech about the chains. He gets the chains put on, and then basically he's expected to kind of like just, and I guess he goes back in the box as well, right? That's also part of his punishment. And this is where I wasn't sure if it was like an ongoing thing or if they just put him in there one night for escaping and that was it, or I don't know.
Yeah, because they didn't. I don't think they put him back in every night when he got back from the chain gang. We've got Dog Boy, and I don't know whether that was his official character name, but that's what I've got. Dog Boy, who raises the hounds, and when he's getting them ready, when Luke escapes the first time, Blue, the hound, gets out and gets a head start on everybody. The look that the guard gives Dog Boy is absolutely brilliant. He's just like, really, and he doesn't try and get Blue back. He just lets Blue run off.
Yeah.
And Blue dies.
Poor Blue. Oh my god.
Because they're all waiting for them. All the prisoners are waiting for them to bring Luke back, and he runs out. He gets out at night just before they go to bed, and they don't bring him back until the next day, which is why I go, a mile and a half. It's not very far. So they come back in the morning. Well, it's daylight. And they open up the back of the car. You can see somebody's legs are up in the back of the car. And you think, oh, is that Luke? And one of the bosses gets out. And then they hear comes out back door. And it's Dog Boy. And then he goes and opens the trunk. And you're like, oh, my God, is Luke in there? It's a very, very dead-looking dog. Like, it's very floppy. And its tongue is hanging out. And I didn't like that.
I'm wondering if did they knock out the dog with some kind of drugs or something for the scene? Like, is it just unconscious? It's just unconscious. I hope it's not like an actual dead dog, but it's just like he was carrying it. He's very upset because apparently Blue ran himself to death, is what he's saying. He ran himself so hard that he just died. And I first thought that Luke had killed him somehow, but no, he just would run so hard that he pushed himself too hard and died. Yeah,
because Dog Boy does say he killed my dog.
Yeah,
but he only did it by escaping. He killed Blue. Blue ran himself into the ground. You're like, yeah. I mean, technically, kind of, yeah. There's a very interesting line that one of the bosses says, and he says to Luke, and I think it's this idea of like, if you keep running away, we're gonna have to kill you.
Yeah.
And he says, I've been on a chain gang for going on 22 years. And I ain't never killed a white man. Oh, Oh, I don't like the way you said that, sir. I don't like
No.
the fact that you specified white.
Yeah, that's pretty dark. It's but it's probably a common attitude for the time, right? This is what this character, how they would feel, how they would act.
And
Darn
not for the police these days. It's still a pretty common attitude.
true. How does he escape the second time? I don't remember the second escape.
I'm shaking the bush, boss. I'm shaking the
Right.
bush.
The bush. Yes, he's going to. Now I'm like, first of all, how are they going to let him go that far? Not watch him. Come on, nobody needs that much privacy on a chain gang, right? And so they ask him to shake the bush. This is right. This is after the guard is talking to him about it, and also the guard is asking him if he believes in God, because this is an issue too. Like he clearly doesn't seem to be believing God because he challenges God. He's like, where is he? In the middle of the rainstorm, he's like, come on. He's kind of like, again, Lieutenant Dan. I always go back to Lieutenant Dan in Forrest Gump, but he's like that, where he's like, come on, challenging, trying to find if God's going to show up, and he never does. And so this guy's asking him about that. And then, you can tell like they've already kind of expect him just to be broken, right? They don't really expect him to run or do anything. He's just like, he asks to go to the, what does he say? I remember how he asks permission to go to the bathroom.
Excuse me, boss. Don't mean to interrupt. Caught short here.
It's all right. It's okay. We're just going out there behind them trees. Man's got to have his privacy sometime. Just keep shaking that bush so we know you're there. Just keep shaking that bush.
Yes, boss.
Shake it up here, boss. Shake it up here. Still shaking it, boss. Still shaking it. I'm shaking it, boss.
I'm shaking, boss. I'm shaking. And so but he ties a piece of string to the bush, and then he can keep shaking the bush while he runs away and gets a bit of a head start on them. So it takes him a few minutes to figure out that he's not there. And then they chase after him again.
And we do see, I think it's it's some wall or something. We do see him, like he's sitting down with the guys at one point before he makes his second break for it. And he's wrapping the wall around his finger. And I spotted it and was like, why has he got that? And then he ties it to the bush so that he can like shake it as he's going away. The man with no eyes gets his gun and shoots like next to the bush and then like into the bush, and that's when they realize that he's gone. And it was a really long piece of wool that he had. I don't know where he got that from.
How is he supposed to go with you shooting at him like that? Let him go. He's never gonna get things going if you keep shooting at him.
Yeah, if he can't go when people are watching, then he's definitely not going to be able to go when you're shooting at him.
So this is when he sends the magazine back, right? He gets away for a while and sends the magazine back with a photo of him in it. It's him in a nice suit with two very beautiful women at a bar or something. It looks like Paul Newman, probably a regular picture of Paul Newman.
Yeah, because he looked very Paul Newman in that photo. Do you know what I mean? Like, he looked very good. But also, Dragline goes, 2 angels with my boy. Yeah, because he's Jesus.
Yeah.
And the other thing, like, he's calling out to God, like, where are you? I mean, no one's ever done disappearing dad quite as well as God did to Jesus. Like, just abandoned his kid. But also, when he gets away the second time, he gets to that sort of shop. And I think it's the only black people we see in the film.
Oh, yes.
And there's a lady hanging up the washing, and the guy, I can't remember what he's doing, but he meets the 2 kids. And the 2 kids, like, they see him, he's got chains on his he's clearly a convict. He's got numbered clothing, and they're just like, hi. they're just like so excited just to see a guy. And then he's like, well, if you can, he sort of goads them into getting a axe for him to break the chain off. Because he's like, I bet you couldn't break this chain off. And they're like, I bet we could. And he's like, I bet you couldn't. I bet we could. It's absolutely fantastic. And then he gets the other kid to go and get like all these different curries and pepper and all this sort of stuff. And he shakes that all over the floor. So when the dogs come through chasing his scent, they get to that point and they're just sneezing all over the place. And that's why he gets away for longer this time.
Yes, yeah. But I love that scene with those kids, because that one kid's like, I could too. And he's like, bitch, you couldn't. He really gets into it with that kid, and like, and the other kid's like, well, go get it then. And so he goes off to get the axe, and he gets that other kid to go, like, just so nice to these kids, and they're just gonna help him. They know the law is no friend of theirs, right? They already know that at their age, so they're gonna help the guy escape and get his stripes off his pants and stuff like that. Yeah.
And then when he says to them, oh, because he doesn't want them to get in trouble with the cops, so he says, oh, watch what happens with these dogs, and then tell me all about it when I'm next coming back through. So they're like looking out the window and giggling as these dogs are like completely unable to follow the scent, and everyone's getting really mad. It's a very, very cute scene that I really liked it.
Yeah, it was great. But he is caught again. We never really see how he gets caught. They just haul him in, dirty and broken.
No, he explains it, doesn't he? He says he was doing some like odd jobs. He was just working a couple of odd jobs,
right?
And one of his bosses reported him, and I can't remember why, but one of his bosses called him in. The other thing that happens when the magazine comes in and they're all sitting around and they're all really excited, the thing is that there is a guy behind them, and I don't know what he's been sent, but it looks like a slab of meat. And he's just like chomping down on this like leg of meat or something in the background. It's like, what is happening?
That's hilarious.
Just over George Kennedy's shoulder is really great. So yeah, they catch him again, and
and so then and they're gonna be tougher on him though. Like they get him out there working, and then when they get back from a day of hard work, they say, "This dirt is in the captain's dick."
Keen.
Boss what?
Boss Keen.
Boss Keen says this to him. So we're saying it says the
no. This dirt is in Boss Keen's ditch.
Boss Keen's ditch. We need you to get it out. So basically, they just want him to dig a ditch. Is what they're asking him to do, and so he has to do that. He has to do whatever they want him to do. So everyone else gets to go. And there's a part where maybe this is further along where they're all taking a break and he has to do the work. Maybe that's later, I think. But basically, they're picking on him and making an example of him because now he's escaped twice. He has 2 sets of chains on, and he's basically just being.
Yeah, because the boss Keen's ditch is so like just exhausting to watch, because he's done the first piece of the individual punishment that he gets is that dog boy he puts far too much rice on his plate.
Right.
And he's like, oh yeah, you can eat whatever, and you've been running and you need a lot of fuel and whatever. So he's punishing him for the death of Blue. And he gives him so much rice, just piles up the rice on his plate, and Luke sits down and is just like, and as all of the guys clear their plates, as they walk to put their plates back on the side, they all take a spoonful of the rice. So his disciples are helping him out here. That's what I'm going to call them. They're his disciples. And they all take and it's this show of solidarity for him. Also, every time he escapes, he becomes more of a hero to them. Yeah. So it becomes more important for the authorities to punish him, and punish him in a way that makes them turn against him. And that is the Boss Keen's ditch, because he comes back from a full day of hard labor. And they go, hey, come over here. And they, show a rectangle, which is horribly grave-sized. I thought they were making him dig his own grave.
Yeah, it does look like that later on, too. Even after he's digging it, he's like, that looks like a grave for him.
Yeah. And they have, they say, this is Boss Keen's ditch, and your dirt's in it. Why is your dirt in Boss Keen's ditch? You have to dig that dirt out. So he goes, okay. And he starts digging, and he digs himself a grave. And then they come back over and they say, what's all this dirt doing in my yard? Why is all this dirt in my yard? And he just goes, I don't know. And they go, put it back in. And then he puts it all back in. And then they come in and they go, we've told you before, this is Boss Keen's ditch. why is all your dirt in it? And he goes, I don't know. And they make him dig it all out again. And this is the point at which, and he like collapses back into, and he looks like he's, lying in his grave.
I thought he was dead for a second. For a second there, like he gets hit on the head and he falls into the grave. I'm like, did he just die? Is this like the end of the movie? Because I thought that was it. Like they could just fill it in. Nobody would know.
Right?
Yeah.
And he falls back and he starts calling out to God. Again, he's like, I'm praying to God, I'm praying to God. And this is a thing that he never would have done, because he's always been he clashes with God sort of the same way he clashes with the authorities. He's actually probably more aggressive towards this God that he doesn't think exists than he is to the authorities, who he can see and believe in. And so he starts praying to God. And this is the point where we get the repeat of the guys are all watching out of the bunk room window, and they all slowly start to turn away from him and walk away from him. And one of the guys goes and finds the photo and rips it up. And then he's screaming at them later. He's like, he tells them it's a fake picture anyway. He's like, I wasn't out there with those two girls. You could just pay a nickel and have this photo made. And so I had this photo made. And they don't believe him. They're like, no, man, we saw it. And so they break his heart, their heart. He breaks their hearts by being broken. And then the next day on the job, he turns into Rabbit. He becomes, the man with no eyes starts to use him like Rabbit. He's like, get my gun and go and do this and go water the guys. And he's like, yes, boss, and running around and doing everything. And I didn't believe it.
Oh, really?
I was like, there was something about, I was like, why are you letting, I know you think you've broken him, but I would still not let that man near a truck.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's acting the right way, right? And even when he goes and he shoots the turtle in this scene and gets the snapping turtle and is like, look, you got him, boss. He's all excited about the turtle and stuff. He's like, and he says, serve it up, you can cut that up for lunch. I'm like, oh man, I don't know how that tastes, but okay, I guess it's probably a delicacy in places. But I did not see it coming. I totally did not see that ending coming, where he gets in the truck and drives off. Like, did not get. I honestly thought they'd broken him in that moment where he's like crying and in that grave or whatever. I thought he was broken. I wasn't upset like those guys were. I'm like, of course he's broken. He's been through horrible things, and this is only natural that he's going to act this way. All those guys seem to see it as a betrayal. It's like, well, what would you do in that situation? I'd like to see you guys get through that. But
yeah, because when he comes back in and he's exhausted, he's trying to, because he's on a top bunk. And I was like, he's got 2 sets of chains on his legs. He's absolutely knackered. There's no way he's going to get up on that bunk. And they just all ignore him. And he's like on this arse on the floor trying to reach up for his bunk. And nobody, not even Dragline, will go and help him. Like, they've completely abandoned him. They've completely turned their backs on this guy. And yet I didn't think he was going to steal a truck. I was just like, hoping. I was just like, I just didn't trust.
Like he was broken. You just didn't believe he was broken, right?
I thought that even if I thought I'd broken him successfully, I still wouldn't risk letting him near a truck. I assumed when he got into the trucks that the keys weren't in it. I literally had that thought. As he got into the first truck to get the gun, I thought he could just drive this off. And then I was like, don't be stupid. They wouldn't just leave the keys in the truck. Because some of those guys don't have chains on their legs. They could easily, if they're nippy, they could get in there. But it turned out they do. And so as he's going into each truck to get whatever he needs out of each truck, he is taking the keys out.
Yep.
He's a smart man. He's a smart man, is Luke.
All right, smoke it up.
Yes, sir!
Luke, water him down.
Yes, boss.
Get it up here, boss.
fetch the rifle.
Got him, boss. You got him.
So he takes off, and of course, Dragline jumps on the car. He gets in with him. He's like so excited. He's not broken, and everyone's very happy that he's not. He's still gonna try to escape, even though this probably means he's gonna die because it's the third time. And they basically said to him, "If you try and escape again, we're gonna kill you." So,
Yeah.
what is he doing?
And every time he tries to escape, they add more time onto his sentence.
Yeah.
And this is a thing where I'm just like, I don't understand you, man.
It's not that bad, right? It's not that bad. If he just would stay there and work and get the day and a half off, he could have a decent life just hanging out with his friends and doing this work, right? It's not that bad. But he does not want to live under the control of somebody else. He cannot stand to be that in that way. So he has to get out of there.
And it's interesting because then we're now on to the last segment where I have used the quote, "What we've got here is a failure to communicate," because we get a brilliant repetition of it. Luke makes his final escape attempt with Dragline joining him. As a surprise, he didn't know it was going to happen. He is surrounded in a local church and shot by the man with no eyes. Dragline reminisces about his friend, his baby. He always calls it, "That's my baby," with his fellow prisoners. Now, Dragline and Luke have escaped together. Luke didn't know that Dragline was coming. They get to an orchard. And he goes, "We're splitting up now." And Dragline's like, what are you talking about? And I was like, yeah, man, you shouldn't have gone with him. Because it turns out Dragline, we don't know how long he's been in there, but he seems to have he's been in there long enough to become like head honcho in the bunk room. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he's been there a while. But by the time he escapes with Luke, he's only got a couple years left to go. So even he says when they're splitting up, he's like, why did I do this? I only had a couple of years. I could have done that. And yes, sir. You could have done that. You've been so excited by this man that you've lost all reason, you know. And then he obviously gets caught and leads them to Luke, or
they just kind of show up and he happens to be there. I don't know. It's not clear. Luke goes into the church and has another shouting match with God, and tries to get him to show himself again.
And interestingly enough, he opens that conversation with, "Hey, old man, because God's his dad, because he's Jesus."
There you go. I'm getting it. I'm getting what you're saying here. Yes, I think you're right.
But so just little things like that just made me smile every time he did it. And Luke, there is a point when they've just escaped. They're hiding the truck, or at least Dragline is hiding the truck. Luke is doing nothing, and he's like, "Oh, this was such a great plan." And Luke says, "I've never planned anything in my life." And I'm like, "Yeah, I can believe that, because the crime he was caught for at the beginning just seemed like a drunken sort of opportunistic, hey, I've got this in my car, I can, damage some public property with it, and I don't like being charged to park my car, so good point. So I'm just going to destroy these parking meters. And yeah, nothing in this movie, apart from maybe that last escape where he's pretending to be broken so that he thinks he can, sort of get away with getting maybe access to a truck. Nothing in this movie, from the beginning to his first escape to his second escape, seems planned. All of it seems opportunistic. All of it seems like he's just a guy. He's so fantastically ordinary. And yet he's this incredible hero. Just for, he's never sticking it to the man. You know, he's not Jack Black in School of Rock. Do you know what I mean? He's
No.
just a dude.
He's also just in it for himself. Like, again, he doesn't want Dragline to come along with him when he wants to split up and go off on his own. He doesn't he does what he wants to do in the moment. He very much seems like a guy who's just kind of playing this one thing at a time and not thinking about what's like 3 or 4 steps down the road, right? So he gets in there, and so Dragline comes in there and says, like, we see the cops pull up first, and then Dragline comes in and says, if you come out there, they won't punish you. Yeah, right. Like we believe.
Yeah, and this is what makes me think that they caught Dragline, because he's like, I negotiated with them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Dragline, you're not the smartest guy. Like,
yeah.
And they said they won't even whip you. You know, and he totally believes that he can just go back home with his friend. And Luke is just done with it. He's just done.
Yeah.
And also what you were saying, that he doesn't do it for anyone else. He just does it for himself. When he's screaming at them, stop feeding off me.
Mm-hmm.
When he's like, that magazine picture was a lie, and I was just doing it, you know, like, if you want to celebrate something, do something. Like, do it yourselves. Stop feeding off me. You know, I'm just going to keep being me and keep doing what I do. But if you guys, like, I can't be the only thing around here. And I just think he burns himself out.
Yeah, absolutely. He's done at that point. He doesn't want to have to fight anymore. So we get them surrounding the church, and he pops his head out the window. Kind of.
Very smart move. Open a window. Why don't you stand by a window?
Fortunately, one of the people in that group is really good shot, right? But so he opens the window and just starts to again say the line back from what we got here is a failure to communicate, and then the guy immediately shoots his throat. Is that what he does? It's like in his
I think he gets shot in the neck. Yeah.
It's a very, like, again, this guy can shoot exactly the bullet wherever he wants it to go, and basically just shoots him so he can't talk anymore. And then he sits back. But again, I'm always confused in movies like this where you see him be shot and there's some blood, but he doesn't die immediately. I'm like, okay, where was he shot, and was it a fatal wound? Because we don't really know. And so then they basically put him in the back of the captain's car, I think. And they say, we got to get him to the emergency station. They said, no, I'm going to take him to the prison hospital, but that's more than an hour away. He'll never make it. And he doesn't? I don't know. We don't know, because they just drive away and we never find out. But I assume he dies.
No, he does. He absolutely dies. Yeah, I would say. But Dragline attacks the man with no eyes, and that's why his sunglasses come on, and then they end up in the mud, and the car drives over them, which probably signifies something very important. And I was just like, yeah. I'm sure it's very meaningful. But yeah, Dragline's just upset that you shot his mate. And then as they're driving him off, he smiles. He's smiling. And I just think he's like, thank God this is over. I'm done now.
You hang on in there, Luke. You hang on. There's gonna be some world shaking, Luke. We're gonna send you a postcard.
You follow me and I'll radio the emergency clinic to open up.
I'm taking him to the prison hospital.
But that's an hour away. He ain't gonna make it.
Get out of the way. He's ours.
The last thing we see is this sort of montage of all of Paul Newman's smiles during the film, because Dragline is like, they're all sitting around, all the prisoners are sitting around, and it's like right by where it happened, and they're like, he drove him off down that road, and he smiled, that Luke smile that he did, So yeah, I'm pretty sure he's dead, and he's eulogizing him. So, what was your Letterboxd score?
I would give 4 out of 5. I think it was a very good movie. It's well shot, great performances, incredible performances, and a very compelling story overall. So 4 out of 5.
Yeah, I gave it 4.5.
Okay.
Just because I was looking at other things I'd given 4, and I was like, this was just slightly better, and just really, really sweating. Just half a point for sweat, half a point for 60 sweat. So good. Yeah. So where are you? What are the 2 options that you've got for where we go next?
So again, as soon as I saw Harry Dean Stanton, I'm like, oh, he goes so many different places. That guy was in Alien. He was in Pretty in Pink. He was in the Avengers. We could watch the Avengers. But Dennis Hopper, of course, has also been in as many movies, if not more, than him, as you said. Of course, Speed. And what was the other one you said you know him from?
Oh, he was in the first season of 24.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Like he was spoiler for a show that's 20 years old, but like he was the big reveal of the big bad. Like we'd been waiting to find out who, and I was like texting my mate Dave, going, "Is that Dennis fucking?"
That's pretty cool. So there you go. But yes, and I do want to jump off of Dennis Hopper because there is one Dennis Hopper movie that I haven't seen. So I'm using this podcast as a bit of an opportunity to fill in the holes in the movies that I should have seen a long time ago. Dog Day Afternoon is definitely that. And this next film is absolutely one that I should have seen because I love this director and I love Dennis Hopper and all the other actors in it, but I've just never seen it. And that is Blue Velvet.
This will be interesting.
Have you seen it?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Are you watching it again?
I will watch it again.
Yeah.
Who is the director? It's the one we lost recently, isn't it? David Lynch. Yeah. I was hoping you were going to say Easy Rider. Is he also in Deliverance?
Maybe. Who?
Dennis Hopper.
He's not one of the main guys in Deliverance. He's one of the main guys in Easy Rider. I'm not a fan of Easy Rider. I'm going to be honest. I think it's kind of a boring movie, to be honest.
I've never seen it, but
okay.
let me put this out there. I am not a David Lynch fan.
Okay.
But of the 3 that I've seen, I think Blue Velvet was probably the one I enjoyed the most. That's not saying much. So it will be a very interesting rewatch for me. And Dennis Hopper's great. Well, obviously, I love Dennis Hopper because in Speed, the whole plot falls apart because he spots a continuity error.
Of course. You just love that was in a movie. That's the whole point of it. Yeah, that's hilarious.
It's the best things. So yeah.
This is one that's been on my list for a long time. I've just never gotten around to it. I do like David Lynch, but it took me a long time to get there. I used to hate him. I used to think this is just weird for the sake of being weird, and I didn't understand it. Now I kind of do a bit more, and I'm trying to kind of take it in like little pieces. So there's a few. I still haven't seen Elephant Man, which he also did. So it's a couple different David Lynch movies.
Yes, that's the one I always want to watch of David Lynch movies.
We'll go there next, then, off of this director if you wanted to. But we'll go to Blue Velvet. We'll watch that next week, and then we'll see where we can go from there.
Okay.
That's going to do it for the other episode of Transit Not a Watch Party. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, keep watching movies.